dear to my heart, retirement accounts, and how much do you need to have in it? And also, where are the averages? How do you fit in? Where do you sit with everyone else in your age brackets? So we're going to be breaking that down today in the live. Now, if you have questions as you're jumping on, please go ahead and type those in. We want to hit all your live questions as we're on today. I might have to take them in the back end of the live today because I want to get through this content of how much do I need in my retirement account to retire, and where are the averages right now by age. And I think that's really important to know. Am I ahead of the curve? Am I behind the curve? I might be behind in terms of the total number I need to have in my retirement account. But for everyone else who's 30 years old or 45 years old or 55, how am I doing? I think a lot of people have that question. So we want to break that down so you know where you're at. And then I want to give strategies on how to get to where you need to go, because many of you are behind. You need to catch up. And how do you do it? Well, I'm going to go through 3 key steps and tips you're going to need to know to catch up to the number that you need to be at so you have a retirement you're actually looking forward to. All right, now please feel free to chime in on the chat if you have questions as we go throughout the day. And like I said, we may have to come back towards the end to get them, but I've got my team here. Tristan's in there. Give him a shout out if you really want your question answered. You might get you at the top of the list. But thanks everyone for being on. Remember, we do go live every Monday, mostly at 4 p.m. We're going to see how that works, going between noon and 4 p.m. But we're live every Monday. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You'll get notified as we go live. And that's where we're putting all of our content, a lot of our resources is into YouTube. So you're on any other version right now of social media, we love it. We're going to still be there. But get over to the YouTube channel because that is where the recording of this will also get posted later. So you'll be able to come back and rewatch this if you need to skip out, or if you just had such a great time, you want to enjoy it for the second, you can go back and watch it on YouTube. But get subscribed so you'll get notified on all that stuff. All right, let's break down where you need to be by age in terms of your retirement account. So I'm looking at, I have an IRA or 401k. What is the balance of that account by age? And how am I sitting with my peers? What are the averages? What's the median? And also I'm going to dig into where should I be if I want to be on track to retire? So I've got some interesting stats here. Now, these are from the Federal Reserve, very trustworthy source, the Federal Reserve. They control our interest rates, but they also do a lot of statistical data on what's going on in the economy. They have stats here, and I'm going to just show this whiteboard here. I've kind of written them out here on the whiteboard to break these down. This is if the average and the median retirement account balance by age. So if you're thinking of yourself and you've got an IRA or 401k, you're 35 and you're like, am I behind the curve or am I ahead of the curve here? The median is 18,000. And if you remember from math class in junior high, what is the median? The median is the middle. If there's 100 people sitting in the room and everybody reports their retirement account balance, you're sitting right in the middle at 50. Okay. And you have $18,000 in your account. So if you're like, Matt, I'm actually 35 and I got 50 grand in my account. Great. You're ahead of the median. All right. If you're like, Matt, I got 0, you're behind. Okay. So that's where the median is, that you can think of yourself as being right in the middle of all the population of people who have retirement accounts. Now, this is a tricky thing to keep in mind here. This is including people that have 0. All right. So that can obviously drag the number down. All right. Now the average is obviously all retirement accounts combined divided by the people that are at that age. Now the average, you're going to see higher numbers because some people have very large balances. Some people have really put time into it and gone with very large balances versus you. And you can't go negative on this. You can only go to 0. So that's why the averages are higher. But the average balance is 49,000. So if you want to be above the average, you got to be above 49. If you want to be above the median, you need to be at 18K. Now, I just said that at the outset here. You can see the differences by age. I'm going to stick to the median number here as we talk about this, because I think it's a good mindset to think of, am I ahead of the pack or am I behind the pack in terms of my people, the peers, my age group? So if you're 45 years old, between 45 and 54, you should have 115K in your retirement account balance, just to be on pace, I should say, with your peers, people that are your age bracket. Now, as you get up to 75 and even 65, you can see the numbers start going up. So Obviously, the older you get, the more money you should have in your retirement account. And that's what most people in America have. The average goes up, the median goes up, and also your time to save is going down. So, so that's a good starting point for you to know where you're at. Now, the sad thing is, these numbers are not where you should be. America, on average, is already behind. Someone at age 65, the average is 600,000. That's totally inadequate. You can't retire on a $600,000 IRA. You're going to need to rely on every penny of Social Security. You better have equity in your home, other assets, maybe family members to support you. You're going to have a second job, a part-time job. Maybe you're going to stay working full-time in retirement. 600K is not going to cut it. All right. So you really need to have a much larger balance. The average is just something to get you a little excited to stay above the pack, but that's not adequate for what you need to retire. What you need to retire is $2 million. You need $2 million in your retirement account to have a retirement account you can actually look forward to. Why do I say $2 million? Because that is the number where you can actually live off of the money, not deplete it. It can continue to grow, and you can actually have somewhat of a reasonable lifestyle. Now, 2 million might not be good enough for some of your lifestyle. 2 million might be more. I'm just saying, as a general rule of thumb, 2 million is the number, and here's why. If we look at the whiteboard here again, if we take $2 million, actually, let me break this down first. Why 2 million in the first place? A lot of financial advisors like to use something called the 4% rule. The 4% rule says you should be able to draw out 4% of what you saved in a retirement account to live off of. So for example, if you had $1 million in a retirement account, take out 4% of it and you can live off of that. That would be 40 grand, right? So if you had $2 million, take out 4% of that, that'll give you 80K. Now, generally your retirement account needs to be doing better than 4%. And a lot of advisors say you could be getting 6% on your money. And what's the difference? Well, now my account's going up. No, that extra 2% is to combat inflation. The value of your $2 million account actually goes down to you over time because of inflation, because the dollars you're going to get in 5 years and in 10 years are worth less. They buy less goods that you're going to need to live off of. So we have that little extra 2% for inflation. So if my $2 million grows by 6%, I take out 4% of that, in this case, 80 grand, to live off of each year. My account is still growing. It stays above 2 million and it's growing a little bit, 2%. And now I'm at least getting 80K a year to live on without depleting the account balance. Now, another way to look at it, and I like to actually use the 6% rule. I think the 4% rule is way too conservative. I would use the 6% rule and say, all right, let's take out 6%. That's going to get me 120K a year because I believe I can get an 8% rate of return. Why do I believe you can get an 8% rate of return? Because our clients do it every day at directed IRA. You can self-directing beat that entirely. I'm getting 14% rate of return on my money right now that's in my retirement account. But even if you're just doing the S&P 500 and buying the typical S&P 500 index fund, over time, it's statistical. You can look it up. It's undeniable. You can get an 8% rate of return on your money invested in your retirement account. So if I can get 8% on that money, I'm still going to give myself 2% for inflation. Let's still make sure we're doing that. That means I get 6% I can take out. That means I got 120K to live on. Now, some of you have had a lifestyle more than 120K. Some of you haven't. I don't know. Some of you have a spouse that also has a pretty good retirement account. And you could both be taking money out of this and living off of 240K. Or some of you are single. Some of you have your home paid off. Some of you rent. Some of you have equity. Some of you have other assets. Some of you have a business. I don't know. Everybody's different. But I'm trying to generalize this so you can understand the framework so you can make good financial decisions for yourself. But I like to think of 2 million. $1 million is not enough anymore. It's not going to last. You're not going to have a great retirement to live off of. You're certainly not going to be down at Del Boca Vista or the great, retirement communities you may want to live in. You might have to be living with your kids or something if you don't get this crap together. So let's stick with 2 million here as the goal. Now I want to go back to the averages. As you can see here, everyone listening, you may fall into these brackets. You probably do, because these are the averages in America. Now, maybe the listeners here are above average, and I'd like to think that, but you may have some catching up to do. So let's go with that presumption that you need to actually catch up because you are not on track to reach $2 million. Well, how do I get there, Matt? That's really the tough question. Not about, where's everyone else at, but it's like, if I need this much at retirement, 2 million, how do I actually get there? And how does that matter to me if I'm 25 versus 55? Well, it's a whole different equation. It's a very different equation of what you need to put away and how that works for you. So let's look at someone age 25. Okay, let's start there because it's a lot easier. If you're age 25, and I'm assuming you're at zero, by the way, now, I'm assuming you didn't even get a head start. You're not even at the averages here, okay? Let's just assume you're at zero, you've done nothing. If you put away $600 a month, $7,200 a year, you can do $7,000 a year in your IRA. But if you started at age 25 and you had an 8% rate of return, again, I'm just saying, let's say you're in the S&P 500 index fund, you will have $2 million at age 65. That's 40 years of investing, $7,200 a year, 8% annual return. You'll make it. Okay, that's doable. You have a $2 million retirement account. Now, what if I'm 35? I've done nothing in my retirement account. I have zero head start. I'm finally waking up. Or maybe you've got 50K or something set aside and you're like, I'm basically starting at zero. If you invest $1,400 a month, that's $16,800 a year. That's a 30-year to invest. At age 65, you'll also have a $2 million retirement account. Now, $16,800, you can't do that in an IRA. You can do $7,000 in an IRA. Your spouse could do $7,000 in an IRA if you have one. Maybe that's $14,000 between the two of you. You could do a 401k. We're going to talk about that. So if you have a self-employed, you could do a solo 401k and put $69,000 in it. If you have a day job, the company has a 401k, you can put $23,000 of your own money in it. The company probably doesn't match. So I can still get that in a retirement account. And the reason that we like the retirement account is that is intended for long-term wealth building. I put the money inside of it. I'm incentivized to save for the long haul. As I'm investing and growing it, I'm not paying taxes as the money's building up. Every penny I make from investment returns in that account gets to go buy more assets and buy more stock or buy more real estate or buy more alternative assets, whatever you're doing in your retirement account, to create more income. I'm not sending anything to the IRS or the state as I'm building the account. So that is the huge perk of investing and using the retirement account vehicle. It's also asset protected, so creditors can't get into it. There's all these benefits of retirement accounts. So I want to focus on getting it into these retirement accounts. All right, now let's say you're 45. Okay, this is me. I'm 44 years old. And luckily I'm not at zero because I've learned a lot from my clients over the years that I put money away. But let's say you're at zero. A lot of my friends are, particularly many of you that are self-employed. You're like, you've been the worst. You don't save for retirement and you haven't had a company 401k where anybody threw a match in. So you just never did it. It was all up to you. And I run into that so much. If you're at zero, how do you get there? It's $3,500 a month or $42,000 a year. Now we're looking at a 20-year investment horizon, but at age 65, I can have a $2 million retirement account. Again, assuming the 8% return, all numbers are the same. Now, sadly, we run into many people in their 50s. And let's just say you're at 55 and you're like, Matt, I got to get my crap together. I need to start saving. I want to retire in 10 years. It's possible, but you really got to work your butt off right now and put some money aside because that's going to cost you $11,000 a month or $132,000 a year. But then at 65, you will have a $2 million retirement account. Now that money at that $2 million number, it's enough of the money makes money that you could actually live off of, right? If I have a $100,000 account making an 8% return, $8,000 is not going to get me very far. I'm still going to need a job, right? But once I get to that $2 million number, that's enough money I could actually live off of it, okay? And I could have a pretty nice retirement. Let's assume you paid off your house. You've got other assets possibly you can rely on. You start getting Social Security in your late 60s or you hold off until you're 70 and get the max benefit. Again, maybe you've got a spouse with a retirement account too and you're sharing expenses. So everybody's situation comes in differently here, but this is what you're going to need to catch up. Now, once we're talking about those in their 40s and 50s that need to catch up, you can't get all that in a retirement account. You got to be strategic on how you get that money in. And so I want to walk through ways that you can max out. We want to go through how you can catch up when you're 50 or older. And then I want to also talk about the benefit of contributing early. And I'm not talking about going back in time to when you're 25 and contributing earlier. We can't change the past, okay? You need like a DeLorean and plutonium to go back to be like, I should have contributed to my retirement account in my 20s. I know we can't do that, okay? But there's ways we can contribute early now, and I'll get to that and how that works and how the math comes out on that and why you get ahead by contributing early. Okay. Let's dive into the first tip of just maxing out. So I want to make sure everybody understands the numbers on how much you can put in a retirement account. So in an IRA, everyone can put in 7K. Okay, and if you got a spouse, your spouse can put in 7K. If you're 50 or older, you can do 8K a year. All right, you got to throw a little extra money in. Now, in a 401K, the total amount of money you can put into a 401K is $69,000. Now, if you're self-employed, you can do a solo 401K and do that. It's based on your income. If you have work for a company, whether it's your own business or you have a job at another company where you work, it's still $69K, but it's hard to max it out. What you can do as an employee, though, is you can always put in $23K. At any age, you can at least get in $23K. The other $46K is like employer contributions. So maybe there's a match your company does, but you know you can at least do $23K at any age. Now, if you're over 50, you actually get to do another, what is it for 2023? I think it's 7,500. So I think you get to do 30,500. Confirm in the chat if you could, Jared or anyone else on the team in there. The 50 plus contribution, the catch up if you're in 401ks. It gets bumped up every year. I think it's 7,500. So, all right. So if we go back to the numbers here on what I need to get in, if I'm at 35, between an IRA between me and my spouse, I could get almost to 16K. I could do 14K. Or if I have a 401K at my work, I could put in 23K of employee contributions and get some match. If you're 45, right, you've got 42 grand a year you're going to need to put in. That might be a combination of doing your 401K, getting a match from the employer, and doing an IRA contribution. All right. So we need to kind of fill up the buckets here, right? I've got the IRA that I need to fill in. I've got the 401K that we've got to fill in here. And I know I can do 7K. I know here at least you can do 23K. Again, remember, those of you solo K, it can go up to 69,000. There's another account here I want to throw into the mix, though, that a lot of people don't think about for retirement, but I really think should be added into the mix, particularly for those of you that are behind that want a tax-advantaged way to save and put this money aside for the long haul. Because remember, this money in your retirement account, you can't touch until you're 59 and a half anyways. There's penalties to get it out early because we're getting tax incentives for investing this for the long haul. But the point of this is, and if you're watching, is how do I get a large enough retirement account so I can actually retire on? Okay, I'm not trying to improve my lifestyle next year with this retirement account. I'm not trying to buy a new car or make more money, right? This is for the long haul. This is wealth for the long haul. All right, so we get these different buckets here. We got IRA, 401k. I said there's one left a lot of people don't think about. That's the HSA, the health savings account. The health savings account you can put in for 2024. You get individual and you get family. Sorry, I thought I had these numbers here on contribution amounts. So for 2024, you get $4,150 if you're an individual. And if you're family, by the way, that includes a spouse or even just you and a child, you're considered family. That is $8,300 that you can put in every year. Now, there's a couple things to know about the HSA. When I put money in the HSA, you get a tax deduction. That's awesome. I can save taxes now. Now you have to have a high deductible qualifying plan to do the HSA. We've got other videos and content on that, podcast episodes, a lot to learn there. But I get a tax deduction to put it in. It comes out tax-free for medical expenses. What is the number one expense you're going to have in retirement? Medical. Okay. The number one thing you're going to be pulling money out of your IRA and 401k to cover is your medical expenses in retirement. But if you had an HSA and you were dropping money into that bucket, planning to use it later in retirement, just use the freaking HSA. You get a tax deduction to throw it in. It grows tax-free and comes out tax-free for your medical, which you're going to have when you're 65 and older. All right. It just could even cover long-term care. It can cover certain Medicare coverage. It can cover your dental. Okay. Whatever it is, we won't get into the prescription drugs that qualify here, but you know what I'm talking about. If you want to have a really exciting, you've seen the Cialis commercials. All right. Okay. If it's prescribed by a doctor, your HSA can pay for it. All right. And that's tax-free growth, guys. Okay. So we've got IRA, 401ks, and HSAs. That's right. I said it. Okay. All right. So, but those are the different buckets where I can be dropping this money. So if we go back to what I need here in the numbers, now if I'm 45 and I feel like I was behind and you're like, Matt, there's no way I can get 42K in a retirement account every year. Yeah, you can. You got a family? We can be doing 8K in your HSA, 7,000 in your IRA, 23 grand in your company 401k where you work at, where they probably have a match. Now you're getting up to the $40,000 number that you can put in it each year. And you have a spouse, because then we can double up some of those numbers, do another IRA contribution. Maybe they have a 401k at their work too. I don't know everyone's situation here. And again, you could be single, but you can see if I'm thinking about all the different buckets of where I can put my money, it does add up to where I can be doing $50,000 a year into qualifying retirement accounts or other tax preferred vehicles like the HSA. All right. Now for you self-employed people, you are a lot of the ones that are behind on here. And a lot of our clients we deal with in our law firm, we have so many of you of self-employed clients at Directed IRA as well. We like to use the solo 401k for you because it's a freaking awesome strategy to put money in. You can put $69,000 a year into this. Even for those of you that have a side hustle and you're like, Matt, I got a W-2 job that I have a 401k I'm throwing money in, but I got a business on the side as well. Can I do a 401k over there and have a 401k at work? Yeah, you can do both. And so this 69K is available in the solo K in addition to what you're doing at your day job 401k. So I'm just saying there's $69,000 on the table for you to contribute as well. Now, if you're back here and you're 55 and you're like, Matt, I want to retire in 10 years and I need the 132K a year to get there, I don't know that you're going to get that in retirement accounts. I think this is where we just, the cylinders, there's just not enough to go in. Again, maybe you do have a spouse, between you and a spouse and your high income. It's possible to get pretty close to that. You might need to be self-employed where the contributions are a little bit higher, but you might struggle. I'm just going to be honest. I don't know that I have a lot of strategies for those of you that are 55 if you have like a day job, not self-employed, where you're trying to put 100K plus away into retirement accounts or tax qualified vehicles. All right. Do you have a question? Better not be someone, pissed off about my HSA joke.
I thought that was a great one. Do you want to answer some questions? We got quite a few.
Okay. All right. Fire away.
All right. Let's start with easy one. At what age can I start putting money away in an IRA or 401k?
At any age, as long as you have earned income into an IRA. So, or 401k, you just have to have earned income. But this could be like working in the family business. This could be a summer job. This could be a part-time job. Doesn't matter. You just have to have earned income.
Awesome. All right. This one's from Anthony on YouTube. If I've already done my max contribution to my Roth for this year, can I also do a backdoor contribution to my Roth? I make $110K as a W-2 employee.
Okay. No, you cannot. So if you've already done the Roth IRA, the backdoor IRA doesn't give you another 7,000 you can do. So you either do one or the other. So if you're at 110K, or you're below 110K, you just do the standard Roth IRA contribution. The backdoor is only if you're over the income limit. So, by the way, you've got other videos on the backdoor Roth IRA. That's essentially a strategy if you make over the Roth IRA contribution income limits, which is like 150, 200K annual income. 110, you're going to be below it. So, unfortunately, no. Now, you said you had a job. Do they have a 401k there? You might want to look at contributing there, at least to get the match. So you might not love the investment options at, the 401k you have. It might be a bunch of mutual funds you could care less about owning, but maybe you're excited about it. I don't know. Most of them are going to at least have an S&P 500 fund or something that's got a long track history you can look at. But I'd at least invest and get the match from your employer. That's like free money from the employer. So go get that.
Awesome. In the income limits for 2024 on Roth are 146 single and 230 joint.
Okay.
So you definitely don't have to go the back door, Anthony. All right. Matt Tucker on YouTube is asking, if I profit 250K in my LLC with 13 employees, can I move 69K to a management company LLC and use that to fund my solo K and save on self-employment tax in my operational business?
No. Sorry. I wish you could. I love that question. There's something called there's like these control groups and retirement account rules that basically say if you own a company 50% or more that has employees, you can't just send money from that company over to another entity you own and then create a 401k plan because there's no employees over there, but yourself the business owner, and basically fail to contribute for the company where you do have the employees. So the IRS and Department of Labor were all over this when retirement accounts first came out in the 70s. And we're like, we're not going to let business owners siphon off money to other entities to then create a 401k just for them. They've got to do it for their employees if they have them. And that's why the solo K is great for self-employed people with no employees, because there's no issue of the business owner doing something unfair that they're not giving to their employees. It's just the business owner. They don't have any employees. But if you are a business owner with employees, you're going to need to offer a 401k plan to them. Now, that's like me, okay? I would love to do a solo 401k. Believe me, I talk about it all the time. We, like every 30 minutes, we have somebody set up a solo 401k here. Like we set up tons of them. But I can't do it. So I have to do a regular 401k, but it's a great employee benefit. And you might see this, and as you mentioned, you're growing your business over time, your employees are going to want it. And just as I was a business owner, like the first 5-10 years, like we didn't really have one. We had to like create one. But by that point, we'd have people work for us for 5 or 6 years. And they're kind of like, hey, are we going to do a 401k here or what? Because like, I might need to find another job because that's a pretty great way to save for my retirement. I want to work here my whole career. And we're like, hey, we want to keep you. Okay. This is like a good business decision in addition to a good retirement decision for us and saving on our own accounts. So I know a lot of business owners think of creating a 401k plan as an expense and a cost to them, and it is, but I'm telling you, it's an investment in retention of your employees who do look for those benefits and who are going to need them. As we're looking at these numbers here, they're going to need a retirement account to rely on too in retirement. So look at just doing a 401k for the whole team. So that might not have been the answer you wanted, but that is the answer.
Awesome. All right. Looks like Jared already answered this, but we'll let you talk on it too, Matt. STJ80 said, I'm not an accredited investor. Should I still attend the Alternative Asset Summit?
Okay, we do have our Alternative Asset Summit, altassetsummit.com. That's October 24th and 25th. It's going to be here in Scottsdale, 2 days, amazing speakers and lineup. Go check it out. A lot of alternative assets, you don't have to be an accredited investor. Some of them you do. An accredited investor, by the way, is someone with $1 million of net worth, not excluding the equity in their home, or they have 100,000 annual income single, or $200,000 annual income single, 300,000 annual income married. If they either meet the income requirements or the net worth requirements, they're what's called an accredited investor. And that gives them access to invest in certain unregistered securities where people raise money. A lot of real estate syndications or venture capital funds and things like that will be like, we'll only take your money if you're an accredited investor. But what I would say is that's maybe only half of the stuff at the Alt Asset Summit is stuff for accredited. The other half is open to unaccredited or not. I know a number of them that are pretty great that are available to unaccredited investors. So the other thing I will say is, if you're the type of person who's smart, who's thinking about coming to the Alternative Asset Summit, you're going to be an accredited investor one day. So you might as well get up to speed on the investments and your options before you get there. So it's a great place to learn and network with others, because alternative asset investing is not like, you know, being on your computer in your room and checking out stocks and getting to Reddit and, you know, typing in a ticker to buy and sell. Alternative assets is the people business. You need to meet people, learn, network, get the lingo down, understand how to make good decisions, analyze investments. And that's what we talk about at the Alt Asset Summit. So don't feel like you need to be accredited to be there. I would say 90% of the audience is, but don't feel like you need to be there. I definitely encourage you to still attend, and don't wait because it will sell out. So get your tickets. Okay, let me jump back to that unless there's any more questions pending right now. Okay, I appreciate everyone's questions. All right, I wanted to jump back here because, and I want to come back to this $2 million number. I think for a lot of you, this seems like a daunting number. I mean, my account's not at that. I can get there. I'm on track. I feel good about it. But what it takes is some consistent contributions. You have to be consistent. The reason these numbers work here for someone age 25 is because of consistency and time. Those are the two things that make retirement accounts grow, that make any investment account grow. Consistency and time. You keep putting money into it, and you let the value of that money continue to grow over time, reinvest, and you get all this compounding interest, right? Dave Ramsey calls it the eighth wonder of the world. And so it's compounding interest. Your money's making money on the money that made money for you last year. It's like crazy. This isn't even money you had to go out and earn. And so, but we've got to have the discipline to set it aside. Now, we talked about maxing out. That was tip number one, learning the different ways you can max out. Tip number two, we've got the catch up for those 50 plus. And remember, we've got these different cylinders here as we're adding up how much to put in our retirement account, where I can get here between, I mean, it's very reasonable for anyone to get between 400 to 100K in here a year, depending whether you're single or married, and also maybe self-employed. But I think everybody can be putting away 40K a year. It's definitely possible if you work at a job that has a 401K, you do an IRA on top of it. You might have to do backdoor IRA if you're over the income limits, but you can also be doing an HSA. Now, what else can I do? How else can I get ahead of the curve and beat the numbers? There's an interesting stat by Fidelity. They came out with a report that said, what are the people that have the large accounts, the 5 million plus accounts? What are some of the things that they do? And they looked at their accounts that is in common. And there was a few things that were in common. One, they max out. Okay. And we've already talked about that. They max out. But two is one I hadn't thought about that they do, but I've noticed it here at Directed IRA over the years, and it's totally rung true. They contribute early in the year. A lot of people think of their 2024 IRA contribution and they think, well, the deadline to get it in is April 15th of 2025. So I have time to put it in. Sure, you have time to put it in, but your money's not invested and it's not growing yet. You're going to wait a whole nother year for that money to get invested because the deadline hasn't hit. You're kind of like the student that turns in their homework on the deadline. I mean, in school, it didn't matter, but when we're talking about your money, that 7,000, just talking about your IRA here, is not invested for the whole year. And for some of you, you know, you could be putting it in March, possibly, and you're waiting until April of the next year. So one of the things they found in the report is contributing early. Contributing early gets you ahead of the curve every year. So rather than putting 7,000 in April 15th of 2025 for your 2024 contribution, get it in by April 15th of 2024 for your 2024 contribution. That gets you a whole year of growth advantage. And I ran some numbers on this just to give you an idea on what that means for your IRA. So now this is over 30 years, and this is contributing on April 15th, of the year of the contribution, rather than waiting for the deadline, which is April 15th of the following year. Okay. So this is a 1-year difference of contributing. We're just talking about $7,000 a year. This is an 8% rate of return over 30 years. If I waited until the next year, my ending balance would be $792,000. If I put the money in the year that the contribution, I didn't wait till the deadline, my balance would be $856,000. So I end up having 60 grand more in the account at the end of the day over a 30-year window by contributing earlier in the year rather than waiting and doing it on the deadline. So those things, these little things do matter. I mean, that difference of 60 grand there is more than 5% of the retirement account balance. And you're not putting more money in. You're just putting it in earlier. And I know you got to earn it, and it's easier said than done. And some of you are like, Matt, I don't have 7 grand. I got to set it aside and all that. I know. I'm just saying, just if you're thinking about catching up here, start putting the money in earlier rather than doing it on the deadline. All right. So that's the third tip there, is contribute and get the money in early. So let's summarize here on the tips. We're going to max out contributions. Remember the catch-up amounts for those of you 50 plus. You have a shorter time horizon. Now, for some of you that are 50 plus that are behind, frankly, and I've ran the numbers, I'm assuming you're retiring at 65. Some of you might be like, Matt, I'm going to go to 70. I might go to 75 because I'm behind. And the reality is that's what happens is their friends are all retired, and we see it all the time. I hate to say it. Their friends are all retired, but they're not, and they're still working, and they're a little annoyed about it, but they didn't get involved earlier. So this is not meant to be an intervention, but America does need a freaking intervention about their retirement accounts. You need to start saving. You need to start utilizing. The government has incentivized us. They've told us you will pay less taxes when you put the money in a traditional account. You don't pay taxes as you grow it. They've said if you want to use a Roth, we won't give you tax deduction now, but we'll let the money come out entirely tax-free at retirement. And as you're growing it, you pay no tax. Like they've given us this amazing vehicle that's tax advantaged, asset protected, and provided it for us. So many companies provide a 401k with the match that is free money that many people are not grabbing. It's like sitting on the table for you to grab, and people are being lazy and not grabbing it. You need to be disciplined about this. Get focused on your own retirement accounts, because like I said at the beginning of this, I want you to have a retirement account you're looking forward to. I don't want you to be getting to that age. And I've had the tough calls of people who are stressed out that they're not going to make it till retirement because they haven't focused. They've waited till it's too late. They took care of everyone else. They took care of their kids. They lived a lifestyle they shouldn't have. And now they're at this age where they're stressed out and freaking out because they haven't set enough money aside. And what can I do now? And this is what you can do, what we've talked about here. But didn't mean to get on a stump speech there, but I just wanted to have a little bit of intervention because America needs it right now. Because you can see from the average numbers, we're behind. It's not enough. It's not going to be enough. The average amount, 600K, for those of you 65 to 74, it's not going to cut it. You're not going to have a great retirement. I'm just sorry. You're not. You're probably going to need to work a little bit. You're going to be counting on that Social Security check to hit every month. You're going to be stressed out, wondering if it's going to last. And that's not good. And we can't wait for our government to come fix it either. I just don't have that much faith in that. I love our government. I mean, but they're not here to fix that problem for you. It's going to be all up to each and every one of us for our own account. So get involved. Let us know where we can help here, of course, at Directed IRA. Many of our clients are using their IRA or 401ks to invest in assets that provide greater returns in the stock market, or that can help them diversify. There's lots of benefits to self-directing. So let us know, of course, if we can help at Directed IRA. And if you have any questions on setting up solo 401ks or how the retirement account tax strategies work, or you've got the high income and you need planning and structure, you can, of course, get to the law firm at KQS Lawyers as well for any tax and legal advice to help you reach your financial and retirement plan goals as well. All right. Any other questions pending? Okay. Nothing else on topic? Okay. All right. I'm seeing a no. Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be back, of course, next week on Monday, either noon or 4 o'clock. We're settling in on that. We're doing some analysis right now, but we'll see you, of course, next week. Until then,